The US is refusing to publicly put pressure on Saudi Arabia over its alleged role in the disappearance of a journalist in Turkey. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo wouldn't be drawn on the existence of a recording supposedly handed over by Ankara to the US of Jamal Khashoggi's suspected murder and dismemberment too in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. It does put Washington in a tricky situation between two allies, with Turkey privately accusing Riyadh of killing the dissident Saudi reporter 2 weeks ago.
Have you heard or asked to hear the alleged audio on the actual murder?
I don't have anything to say about that.
Well, we know what they could have discussed. They could have gotten to the bottom of whether or not Jamal Khashoggi was indeed killed, tortured, and then dismembered as the consul watched, as reports seem to indicate. However, it seems that they focused rather on what seemed to be almost perfect about the U.S.-Saudi relationship.
We have lots of important relationships, financial relationships between U.S. and Saudi companies, governmental relationships, things we work on together all across the world. The efforts to reduce the risk to the United States of America from the world's largest state sponsor of terror, Iran, those are important elements of U.S. national policy that are in Americans' best interests.
You are a lovely country and great country, and as a American Saudi Arabia, they are really strong and old allies. So we face lots of challenges together in the past and today and also tomorrow.
Now, Mike Pompeo's comments referred to Saudi Arabia as a purchaser of American goods, primarily military hardware. And he seemed to talk about Saudi Arabia as an ally against what he sees as the primary source of evil in the region, Iran. Now, this is not so much different from what we heard from Mike Pompeo's boss, the U.S. president.
Saudi Arabia has been a very important ally of ours in the Middle East. We are stopping Iran. We're not trying to stop, we're stopping Iran. We went a big step where we took away that ridiculous deal that was made by the previous administration, and they are an ally. We have other very good allies in the Middle East, but if you look at Saudi Arabia, they're an ally and they're a tremendous purchaser.
Donald Trump's comments come as there's a huge amount of pressure mounting on the administration in response to outrage about the Khashoggi incident.
President Trump is criticizing the condemnation of Saudi Arabia over the case of missing journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
President's stunning statement, as three sources tell CNN, that a high-ranking officer with the Saudi intelligence agency oversaw what the Saudis are now claiming was an interrogation of Khashoggi.
He walked into a building and never came out of the building. What are we talking about? And the building was Saudi.
If Khashoggi's dead, said Republican Senator Marco Rubio today, the U.S. must respond or it risks its own standing.
The administration assures us that Saudi Arabia will get to the bottom of what actually took place eventually.
We're going to give them the space to complete their investigations of this incident, and when they issue their reports, we'll form our judgment about the thoroughness, depth, and the decisions they make about accountability connected to that.
So the world just needs to sit back and have faith in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Meanwhile, Riyadh denies any involvement in Khashoggi's disappearance. Former US diplomat Jim Strass, though, believes that Washington will do anything to keep the Saudis on side against Iran.
Let's remember that the Trump administration, for a number of reasons, but I think primarily influence from Israel and Saudi Arabia, has a vendetta against Iran, that Iran is responsible for everything wrong in the world. Iran is the #1 sponsor of terrorism. Iran is a regional threat. Of course, this is all nonsense, but this is what the Israelis and the Saudis want. That is the primary policy that it unites Washington with Riyadh, and I think they want to find some way to preserve that. So I think this is a way of emphasizing in an American context that we somehow need the Saudis in order to confront this very, very evil threat coming from Iran.